In part 1, I left off when I started to tell you about Eve. Before I relate to you how we were introduced, you need to know that, despite the beauty of this place, I began to feel an anxiety growing within me. Earlier I told you that the job Yahweh gave me was to keep care of the garden where I was living. Apparently, his intention was that I continuously expand it to include more and more area. I was also learning some interesting things about trees, shrubs, and plants. Not only were there fruit trees here, but also bushes that grew delicious berries. I was even shown a variety of plants that could be used for food. I was kept so busy by Yahweh doing my job that it was hard for me to recall exactly how much time had passed. However, I do remember that I began to be bothered by a nagging thought that something was missing in my life. I think it may be more believable if I let my youthful self tell you the story about how Eve and I met. My problem started when I was naming the animals that Yahweh brought to me. I could see that all the animals came in pairs. One was a male and the other a female. Though they appeared to be the same, they were also very different. Some of the males were much larger than the females, and some were not. Occasionally, it was hard to tell the difference. As I got to know them better, I could see that they performed an act that produced babies of their kind. I unconsciously knew many of the details about this act, even though it seemed irrelevant to me personally. That fact confused me. Why should I know these things? Why would all the animals come in pairs? Despite how hard I searched, I couldn't find a suitable mate for me, though some of the animals I observed looked somewhat like me. None even came close for a mate, as far as I was concerned. I sensed that Yahweh knew what I was thinking, so it wasn't a surprise to me when I was told that I would be given a mate too, and be just like all the other animals. We would be the same, but different. I knew that I was formed from dust, but my mate would be formed from a part of my own body. Soon after that, Yahweh put me into a deep, dreamless sleep. It was as if time stopped, because I had no sooner closed my eyes than I opened them again. To my surprise and delight, I saw a lovely face staring down at me. This beautiful face caused me to spontaneously exclaim, "At last! Here is one of my own kind, bone taken from my bone, and flesh from my flesh. Woman is her name, because she was taken out of man." As you can see, I did not originally refer to my wife as Eve when I first met her. I called her woman. Calling her Eve came much later. However, for the most part, I'll continue to call her name Eve in this narrative because I think her name is so lovely. Tell me, do you see any irony of woman being taken out of man? Though woman was taken from man's body, every man and woman since has been taken from a woman's body. I just have to marvel at how careful Yahweh was to give woman such an honorable position. You may be interested to know that though both of us were naked at the time, I felt no desire to procreate like the animals. Because I had so many other things to share with her, that was the farthest thing from my mind. In fact, the feeling was mutual. Since we were both kept so busy with work activities, neither of us had any time or desire to think about having offspring. Early the next morning, the first thing I wanted to do was to show her the forbidden tree. When I took her there, we looked at both trees, one for life and the other for death. I warned her about the tree of death, and that we should never eat of its fruit. To my regret, I may have exaggerated my warning by saying that even if she were to touch it, she would die that day. After that, we went on to happier things. I showed her all the animals I had named. We picked fruit from many of the trees in the garden that were edible. I showed her my favorites, which she would often gather to prepare our meals. It was such a joy to be with her. I couldn't possibly imagine how I ever managed without her for so long. You are no doubt familiar with the idea that all good things must come to an end. It never entered my mind that our life together would ever end, but it did. In part 3 of this series, I want Eve to tell you her story, which may be different from what you've heard in the past.